So Mipam Gyatsho's description of, he doesn't announce it, but he announces this as an opposing view of Buddhahood. And we're looking at his description to understand it in the context of Gelugpa. And that indeed is his concern. Now, he describes a Buddha's omniscient consciousness in all of its forms, let's look at it that way, as a momentary, mutable mind. And yes, indeed, Gelugpas say that a Buddha's mind is momentary. Momentary means that as Nguyen Langdon would describe it, it's like this. It's not tickling you, it's moving. It's if you could see it like a wall, everything is in flux. And as soon as I open my mouth and say something that leads me to something else that I wasn't prepared to say, but in the consequence school, it's 1/360th of the blinking of a blinking of the eyes of a healthy person. So, whereas in the Great Exposition School, it's 1/60th. The changeability like this is 1/60th of a blinking of a healthy person's eyes. And which I think if we look in Meditation on Emptiness from, let's see, for this camera, the Lama is there, and for those at Shravasti, his picture was behind me in Virginia. The timing also has to do with the flipping over of a minute particle. But I will stop there. So, but of course, and I'm pausing because I don't want to say contemporary science, because Buddhist science is contemporary also. And I don't want to call it Western science because this so-called Western science exists throughout the world. And ancient science is also existing today, right? And it's not Eastern science, you know. Directionality didn't have much to do with it. So coming up with words but you all know what I'm talking about. But I forget what I was talking about. But anyway, in laboratory science in Cambridge, Massachusetts nowadays, we're talking about billionths and so forth of seconds. I guess getting super specific may be a way to handle rather than these great generalizations. Now, why two different words are used, momentary and mutable? Now, mutable doesn't, Mipam-gyatsho is not introducing the idea that for Gelugpas or anyone who holds this type of view, it could change in type, like go from being good to bad, or you could have a certain type of meditative stabilization at one point and lose at the next point. But a good scholar should be able to tell you why the difference between momentary and mutable. Mutable is changeable. The word here means changeable. And frankly, I don't know. The momentary is Gechima. Mutable is Gyorgen. Yeah, I just had to see it again to make sure. So, even an omniscient mind that knows emptiness, like water in water, is described in Gelugpa as momentary. Gyorgen, I've never seen that description, but once it's momentary, it has to be Gyorgen because it's changing moment by moment, produced. It is produced, remains, and ceases all within the same moment, all within one moment, not in parts of the moment, but the moment of production is the moment of abiding, is the moment of cessation. Which, when you think about it, is but as in Giant Shiba's text, it said it's called permanent because it's irreversible. It's a very nice statement. It's a wonderful statement. Irreversible. There are many meanings of irreversible, but in this case, irreversible. Permanent means irreversible. It doesn't mean non-momentary, is the meaning, is his meaning. He doesn't say that. It doesn't, but he means permanent doesn't mean non-momentary. It means irreversible. So it realizes all phenomena, both the ultimate and the so-called conventional or veilings. It manifestly constructs a Vajra body that is permanent in the sense of its continuum. And then Hopkins adds, oh, not Hopkins, this is Khetsun Sangpo, because it's in brackets in his book, going on forever. And that's what it means. Not permanent in the sense of being non-momentary, but as His Holiness keeps making this distinction, permanent in the sense that it's momentary, but here, not, he doesn't use the word irreversible, but that its continuum goes on forever. But the Vajra body has to be constructed, made up. And as I've mentioned earlier, Changya Roe Doje deliberately uses the words produce, produce, produce. Like you, Nyingmas, don't want to use the word produce. So in his book called Identifying the Mother, the Perfection of Wisdom, it's a very nice text. He just throws it in your face. Produce, produce, produce. It's a lot of fun that way. And manifestly constructs a body of great bliss. You see, this has to be generated, produced. You're not just uncovering what's already there, you're producing it. A body of great bliss, endowed with the feeling of bliss, which is an object of experience by it. Okay, that is the description. And produces various activities of that Vajra body. Yes. So, if you may remember that I related that I asked a Jonang Kimbo, professor, in this case, not abbot, professor, really wonderful teacher. I said, well, if all of these wonderful features are permanent, non-momentary, how can they move or teach or utter words? I said, are they like stone? And he laughed and laughed, and then gave no answer. Because he enjoyed the...
Jeffrey?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I once read a statement by Khenpo Tsultrim Rinpoche, who was answering the question of what kind of permanence is this. He's Kagyu, and he said it's a permanence beyond the concept of permanent and impermanent.
Yeah, that's another answer. Yeah, it's another answer.
It's fascinating when you said last time, I can't remember which teacher said it. The meaning is good.
Yeah, right. Right.
So I love that.
That's nice. Yes, it's another way. You make a third possibility. And then in some groups, like in Gelug, they don't want a third possibility, so then that forces them to impermanent. And then like in Jonang, they don't want a third possibility, so they stay with permanent. And then in other groups, they want to push it to a third possibility, and then basically they've got nothing to say. So then, good.
Beyond concept.
Yeah. That's the easiest way out. And so we can have also a lot of appreciation why you would want a third category, but then also appreciate those who stay within the two categories and try to explain it. And then knows all phenomena from the viewpoint of dualistic differentiation between knower and known. So if we remember Tupten Yeshe, Yeshe Tupten. Tupten Yeshe is the famous one of the pair, Tupten Yeshe and Lama Serba, you know? And then Yeshe Tupten was the abbot of Losaling College, who came to Virginia and taught. He's very tall, tall fellow who helped us out a lot. Eventually had liver cancer. And it was discovered, I guess, at Virginia. And he returned to India and went around and collected a whole lot of donations for Losaling based on being about to exit into death. We could call it Dexit. And he was really great. And, he knew he was going to die. Did a Dexit. And so he had 5. We usually rely on Tarba, because I usually can only remember 5 types of duality. There are 5 types of duality. The appearance of subject and object, Yulta Yuljen. The appearance of inherent existence. The appearance of meaning generalities, which really means conceptual images. The appearance of conventionalities. I hope you're writing these down. That's 4. So usually Tarbo looks this up and supplies the 5th. So what's the first? Now the question is, in Gelugpa, how many of these still exist at Buddhahood? So what was the first?
Subject and object.
Subject and object. So subject and object, you see in an omniscient consciousness, you see there still is subject and object. We're talking consequence school. The 5th is difference. Difference. And so there still is subject and object. So you see dualistic differentiation between knower and known. So these are 5 types of dualism. Dualistic appearances. Dualistic appearance. So there's an awful lot of talk in all Indian religions probably, about dualism. And this is a really great breakdown of 5 types of dualism. So within the consequence school, how many of these are present in an omniscient consciousness in that exists only at Buddhahood. So the first was subject and object, yeah. Yuldo Yulchin. The second, appearance of inherent existence. From a Buddha's own point of view. No. And the third?
Meaning generality.
Yes, meaning generalities. That means these are conceptual appearances. There's no conceptuality at all. So the second and the third were no. And then the fourth?
Conventionalities.
Yes. So conventionalities have to appear. Now, interesting. Two different ways. One is, from a Buddha's own point of view, if there's endless purity appearing to a Buddha, but a Buddha, a Buddha's own hands are appearing, that's a conventionality. A Buddha's house, the mandala. A Buddha's, well, okay, let's just leave it at a mandala. So conventionalities appear. And you see, if we go on to the topic of what appears to others, then we have to double back. Inherent existence appears to us lame folks, so then we'd have to add that in, okay? So let's not double back that way. Then the fifth one, difference. And difference, yes, subject and object difference, but this door of the mandala and that door of the mandala, east and west. So, out of the 5 types of dualistic appearance, how many survived?
3.
3. That was coming to mind, yes. So, offhand, one might suddenly think, well, there's no dualism at Buddhahood. Yes, indeed. Now, what about meditative equipoise directly realizing emptiness? Whether you're a hero solitary realizer or bodhisattva, directly realizing emptiness. And remember that all 3 types of superiors have meditative equipoise directly realizing emptiness. Would any of the 3 that a Buddha has difference, subject and object, and what's the third?
Conventionality.
Oh, that's interesting. Is it totally non-dualistic? All 5 are absent? There's no sense of difference. It's water poured in water. And even though you're realizing all emptinesses of all phenomena, you don't have a sense of this emptiness and that emptiness. You don't have a sense of this is the, wisdom realizing emptiness, that is the emptiness realized. You don't have a sense of subject and object. You don't have a sense of, you don't have a realization of conventionality. So it's total, all 5 are absent. So knows all phenomena from the viewpoint of dualistic differentiation between knower and known. So far, Mipam-gyatsho is, as far as I can see, totally correct. There's no straw person. It used to be called straw man. when I was first translating in public, interpreting in public in big lectures, big and small lectures for His Holiness, this was a bit controversial to stop saying man and switch to person, human. I was ruffling feathers. Okay. Is released from cyclic existence. Well, that's a bit paltry, because release from cyclic existence and from the obstructions to omniscience, but that's okay. There's nothing wrong with the statement. And is the pristine wisdom perceiver of such release? Yes. Any kind of true cessation, which is it's the complete true cessation of all the obstructions to liberation from cyclic existence. That's the release. And is the pristine wisdom perceiver. He's very careful to say perceive, put the agent on that, of such release. Okay, then there's nothing wrong with that. I think he's trying to make it a bit paltry by, it maybe doesn't sound quite as thrilling but it's fine. Thinking such, they hold that a Buddha is a special person. Now this is using the word kangsak, right? Yeah, kangsak. The etymology, the folk usually, scholars use the word folk etymology, but Tibetan scholars, the word pudgala is in, whether it's Sanskrit or kangsak in Tibetan, is these are fairly low words for, let's say, sentient being, even if technically sentient being means a being who still has obstructions yet to be gotten rid of, technically, or in certain usages, it technically means a being who has a mind with obstructions yet to be gotten rid of. It can be used for somebody who's gotten rid of all obstructions. Whereas kangsak, or the Sanskrit pudgala, is a bit of a lowly word. And the Tibetan word itself, actually the word folk etymology wouldn't be bad for the way Tibetan scholars explain it. That in Tibetan itself, kang means filled up with, I think it said even afflictions, and sak, fallen into cyclic existence. So kangsak, in its folk etymology, that doesn't mean common folk, but because what common person, well, I don't know what common person, I don't know if this is commonly known, but it's commonly known certainly among scholars, is a pretty crappy word. But we're all Kansak. And even in the definition of person, the word Kansak is used. So it has a much wider meaning in the scholarly community than its folk etymology. Okay? Nevertheless, we all know its folk etymology, filled up with afflictive emotions and fallen into cyclic existence. So, Kansa Kibojin, a special person. Now that itself is a put down. Like a senator is a special person. A diplomat is a special person. Even a, shall I say, a professor. Unless you're a professor, then you know professors are not special persons. You know, or a head nurse, you go in the hospital and the nurses say, well, a head nurse is a special person around here. So they hold that a Buddha is a special person endowed with the 5 momentary and manifold aggregates. So the a Buddha even has the 5 aggregates. Now that's like a real put down. But Gelugpas say it. And the 5 aggregates necessarily are momentary. And those momentary and manifold aggregates are purified of the defects of cyclic existence. True. As like he's saying, do you want to say that this is what a Buddha is? And he's forced him into this position where they have to say yes. It's kind of beautiful, you know. He's reduced it to this, in a sense, and you know you have to gladly answer, you betcha. What's the problem? Have you got a problem with that? And differentiated as a separate continuum. Wow. Now, is he trying to say that all the Buddhas are one continuum? Wow. That's pretty well. Now, I remember Locho Rinpoche, this is back to the topic of meditating on yourself, like as Manjushri or as Dara. And we're, you know, are you supposed to think of yourself as how much really are you supposed to be the deity? And I forget where we were at the time. And he took it to the utter extreme. He said, one entity. And then, of course, there's one entity and different isolatable factors. And then we pressed him on it. And we said, well, do you want to say one entity and different isolatable factors? And he said, one isolatable factor. Dopachik. That's more one than one. It's like saying that. Totally one with... It was stunning. And I could only imagine that Ling Rinpoche had said that to him. Aside from His Holiness, Losha Rinpoche was the favorite student of Ling Rinpoche. So,
Jeffrey, can I ask a question?
yes.
Did he say there was one isolatable factor or none?
One.
I'm not clear.
One.
And what was that one?
No, it's just, that means you're so completely one. One with, and this is Jikje. I think he was talking about Jikje at that time. Who is Manjushri, the fierce form of Manjushri. I'll tell you, I was walking around, I think it was the Great Assembly Hall of Trebon. I sort of had my head down or looking over here or something, just walking around like this, and I turned my head this way, and I was right up against Jikje, which means terrifier. Red Jikje with a bulging stomach. And I was like at stomach height. And Jikje was right there. And I thought, oh, no wonder the Chinese think he's a devil. Oh my gosh. It was the Jikje mantra that saved me when I was dying in the hospital in Virginia. Literally. I've never said that. I always say some mantra. Ling Rinpoche taught it to me. He said, when you get in trouble. Yeah. I was dying. And I thought, I'm in trouble. And it came out. Anyway, as one doctor said, we didn't do anything to help you. You were dying. I didn't tell him, obviously. Anyway, hence. So in other words, I'm saying I don't know what to do with differentiated as a separate continuum. It's said, and what comes to mind is Chugu Nyakjik. I used to translate it as truth body, which is flows from the lips easily, but body of attributes. Nyakjik, the one soul truth body, the one soul, S-O-L-E, body of attributes. And I've not seen a that's where I'm looking for maybe a solution on this. Though not conceived as maybe self rather than a self, one has to know. I don't know why I chose a self. That means a person. As self strikes me as a better translation today. That would mean as substantially existent or as inherently existent. That meaning of self. That strikes me as better. I don't know why. Talk to me, Zin. Can't tell. You never can tell from talk to. I'll choose as self today. Hence, so then from these five, he doesn't label them as five. I labeled them as five to make them easier to look at. Hence, not understanding even a portion, even a little bit. No, he didn't say little bit, even a portion, even a class, even a factor, even a portion of the pristine wisdom body of a Buddha. They haven't gotten down to it. That they choose to describe it this way, as opposed to what I described in what Hopkins is calling the last chapter. You understand why I called it the last chapter? And why didn't I end the first book there? This is the beginning of the third chapter, right? The third chapter is the beginning of an argument. Don't do it the Gelugpa way, he's telling his fellow Nyingmas. So you see, he's arguing against Jabatonga specifically, and in the process is doing a critique of Gelug. So it's double-edged, but it's doubly helpful. Not understanding even a portion of the pristine wisdom body of a Buddha and holding in their hearts a tenet positing an individual person called Buddha. You see that? Yeah. Some kind of Kangsak person. Wow. It's beautiful. They set forth in that way all of the presentations of the path of Sutra and Tantra. Yeah. And they find fault. They criticize. The dawning, the shining forth of an uncompounded body of Buddha pristine wisdom endowed with all aspects. Wow. Yep. Then, Khetsun Sangpo, they assert that a Buddha is a common person who has slightly higher attributes than those of an ordinary being. I think this goes too far. This goes too far. You know, it's an illustration of, I think maybe as his editor, I should rub this out. You know, that's the job of the editor. But maybe not. I mean, it's a little illustration of going too far. But I mean, in a sense, it is a recapitulation of the tone of Mipam-gyatsho's criticism. That the Gelugpas haven't gotten wind of the extraordinary qualities of a Buddha, how far of what supramundane is. They've turned a Buddha into something elevated, ordinary. So, we're almost finished here. Where he, Mipam Gyatsho himself, now really puts down this type of explanation as being a case of running after low explanations, and even cites a stanza from Maitreya. Those who have interest in the low, whose disposition also is very low, completely surrounded by low friends, do not become interested in the elegant doctrine, profound and vast. Now, Khetsun Sangpo gives a very nice commentary. They do not know the mode of appearance of pristine wisdom. And this puts the challenge in the perspective of the previous chapter. You see, the mode of appearance to, I keep forgetting our own terms, the mode of abiding, the deepest mode of abiding. And that's why he spent such a deep and complicated section on the unfabricated, very deep mode of abiding. So what I want to do is stop there, and next time, somewhat quickly, go over the section on Buddhahood in Giant Shiba's layout of the Consequent School's views on Buddhahood. And I began today colorizing parts of it, and I'll try to colorize most of it, because I don't intend to go over all of it. But I believe I translated all of that section, plus parts from Nam Beldana and other texts, in order to give a rather full presentation. And it's an extraordinary presentation. It's a very full presentation. And it gives you a sense within Gelugpa of what is extraordinary. And then this makes the highlight with Nyingma come across even more clearly. And there is a clear distinction. And it will make the Nyingma presentation even clearer, I hope. So let's leave it there. And I'll see you